So, the new MacBook Pro has just dropped, the new MacBook Pro 13. I'm going to tell you why you shouldn't buy it. Actually, let's talk about that now. I will get into why this is a game-changing laptop, and believe me, it is game-changing. There's some significant upgrades, and it's going to be a great machine, this one. But why you might not want to upgrade it is, at the end of the year, I expect this to be refreshed. I expect them to put a 14-inch display into this. So if we have a look here, nothing's changed here. It's the same bezels, everything like that. I expect them to get rid of these bezels at the end of the year, probably November, just before Christmas. And I expect it to have more like a 14-inch display. It's going to be mini LED, HDR or branded XDR. And it's going to be quite a substantial upgrade on this display. Now, this display is awesome. Don't get me wrong. It's one of the best displays you're going to get on a laptop. But that mini LED HDR display is going to be quite a lot better. Also, in November, they'll probably drop in the Tiger Lake CPUs. So this one's currently using Ice Lake CPUs, which are great. And I'll get into that in a sec. But Tiger Lake CPUs are going to be like another 25% uplift in the GPU. So you know that now. You make your own decision. Of course, you can buy one of these now if you want, but you know that could happen. Those refreshes could happen. So if we have a look at this one, why is it a game changer? So when it comes to what's new with these MacBook Pros, of course you have the base model MacBook Pro 13, which is this one. Basically nothing's changed with this one other than they've doubled the storage, okay? So now instead of having 128, you get 256, etc. They're still 8th gen, okay? So you got to look here. It will say 8th gen. They are what they are. They're still good machines. There's no problem there. You get an extra storage. Now, I've always said, just get this one. It does have a 15-watt part. It comes with only 2 Thunderbolt 3s, which is enough for most people. But why I said always get this is because it's a 15-watt part, it could always crank up. Now, the 4 Thunderbolt 3 model, which is the model that's actually been replaced, which is this one here, that one always used the 28-watt part, which this one does as well. I'll get into processors in a sec. But because the graphics were basically the same and, these 15 watts could crank up anyway, the 28-watt CPU really wasn't worth it. It was slightly faster, but not a great deal. But that's all changed now with this new model here. And as you can see, it's got much faster memory. So that's the first thing. It starts with 16 gigabytes, more storage. But the biggest thing in these is the Iris Plus graphics. So it's got Intel Iris Plus graphics, but it's got the Ice Lake Intel Iris Plus graphics. So we'll just quickly go through it. Now, I will say, look at those prices. All right. If you're platform agnostic, imagine what you could get with these sort of prices here. The 1900, $17.99. You could get a G14, as this G14, which I have here. Look how sexy it is. RTX 2060 graphics, a CPU that would be 4 times faster than the CPUs in this, probably. Yeah, much faster. They're actually faster CPUs that go on the MacBook Pro 16. But I mean, most Mac people, they're not going to care about that. But anyway, so let's have a look. New keyboard, of course. It's updating to the Magic Keyboard. It's going to be much better than the old keyboard. Of course, this is personal preference, whatever. But yeah, new keyboard, finally. Double the amount of storage. We've talked about that. But you can get up to 4 terabytes now. So, woof. Yes, that is awesome in a small 13-inch form factor. Now, better performance. This is the big deal, right? This is why it's such a game changer and I recommend them, is because they got Ice Lake CPUs. Not only that, they have a special Ice Lake CPU, which would be, it's called the Intel 1068 NG7. I guess that's the i7 variant of that. But the closest thing we've got to that here would be this one here. This is the 15-watt version. The one that's going in the new MacBook Pro would be the 28-watt version of this. Awesome graphics on it, all right? It can even drive the XDR display, the 6K XDR display. It's going to be much better for video editing. It does have double the performance over the old Iris Plus graphics. And the HEVC and H.264 encoding and decoding is twice as fast as Intel HD. And you know how fast that can be with QuickSync. And I've already demonstrated before, when I hook up an eGPU to the XPS 13 2-in-1, which has Ice Lake CPUs, not as good as these ones, but they are Ice Lake CPUs, 15-watt variant. Remember, this is the 28-watt variant going in these. That XPS 13 2-in-1 with an eGPU rendered out faster than any other laptop, even the ones with the beefy graphics. and it beat my desktops as well. That's because of that Iris Plus graphics and whatever, the 2x performance with the, the quick sync and stuff like that. Have a look here at the Thunderbolt 3s. You get 4 Thunderbolt 3s, and the beast thing about this is game changing, okay? It's Thunderbolt 3 built into the CPU now. No discrete chip. They don't need it. It's going to be better latency. It's just going to be much better than having a discrete controller. It should control the heat. The fan shouldn't come on when you connect it to an eGPU. It just should have better performance overall. I don't see any reason why they need a controller anymore. They should just be able to build it straight in, and it's just going to have much better Thunderbolt 3 performance. And make sure you guys subscribe, because I'm going to get this in and test that. I'm going to see how good it is in video editing, stuff like that, compared to a 15-inch, and see if you have an eGPU, can this replace your 15-inch? And even just with the new Intel graphics, how does it perform? I mean, you got 16 gigs now. You can go up to 32 gigs as well. So that's excellent that you can get up to 32 gigs as well. So that's going to really help. So that's about it. You can get 4 terabytes, you get the new CPUs. And as I said, the CPUs, the closest thing we know about is this one here. This 15 watt is going to be the 28 watt variant of that. The new CPUs, Thunderbolt built into the CPU. We get up to 32 gigs, 4 terabytes of storage. We get the new keyboard and double the storage on a normal configuration. So this is a big upgrade. So if I was going to recommend which one you should get, we don't know the exact configuration of these CPUs because Intel haven't released the specs of them, but I assume that the i5 and the i7, because you can get an i7, okay? If we have a look at this one, this has 512 storage, and that's the only difference compared to this one over here, which has 1 terabyte. Other than that, they're exactly the same, right? They've got the i5. Now, should you get the extra storage, extra RAM, or the i7? I would say always mostly go with the RAM. This already has 16 gigs, and I think the i7 will have the better graphics, okay? So that's one thing to know. I think it will have slightly better graphics, because if we look at these Intel parts here, this i7 compared to the i5 version, the i7 does have slightly better graphics, slightly better frequency, it has more compute units or whatever. So there will be a difference in graphics performance. That being said, these are new chips. Maybe the i5 and the i7 had the same graphics. So I would wait and see on that. If they have the same graphics, go for the RAM, forget the i7. If the i7 has slightly better graphics, I would go the i7 and then whatever storage you want. But yeah, 16 gigs is nice. When it was 8 gigs, I would always go to RAM 100%. But if you're getting a slightly better graphics with the i7, it's probably worth it over, an extra 16 gigs, unless you're doing virtual machines or whatever, because 16 gigs is good, especially in, a 13-inch package, and, it's not a 16-inch MacBook Pro, so you might want 32 gigs in that, but this, yeah, 16 is probably good enough. You'll know if you need the RAM anyway, but I recommend you do wait until we find out, does the i7 have better graphics? If not, and you want to upgrade something, go to RAM. Yeah. Make sure you sub up. I'm actually evaluating it myself to see if it's a good laptop to own. Anyway, catch you next one, guys. Tally ho.